from front to back. So the probe is the tapered one, okay, and there's thank you. And there's a little red fixation light on here. And the reason why the probe is tapered, whereas the diagnostic is kind of broad, is because it's fixed to just go down the visual axis. We don't want anything else. On your A-scan settings here, you're gonna have your exam technique, which is either gonna be immersion 1 or contact 1. And the other ones are more for difficult cases, so it changes the spacing between the transducer and the cornea, so you don't generally need to change that.
Unless like it's a silicone filled eye or something.
Yeah, or it's really, a pediatric case that's really complicated or something. Under this, you have auto acquisition mode. That will capture 5 automatic A scans once you start running the probe and have the probe in position on the eye. Otherwise, you can do it manual. With auto acquisition, you can't save movies, you just save 5 stills, and you have to choose from those. Manual, you can save a movie and roll back and get what you want. I prefer the manual way just because I like being more in control and I like scrolling through and seeing what my different measurements are. But if it's a really easy, just a cataract, no other pathology, auto acquisition can be pretty fast too. Tolerance level, and this is what you're gonna see here. This is the valid edges. So it's either gonna have your cornea, anterior lens, posterior lens, and retina, or under normal, it's gonna add your retina and your sclera. So sometimes it takes the machine a little bit longer to kind of recognize the valid edges when it's under normal. So I leave it on expert, but you can flip back and forth and see what the difference is, and I'll show you what they do also. You can see here, play this, whoops. As you play this movie, you'll see these are all capitalized. If there wasn't a valid edge, meaning there's not, a spike is missing, this is gonna be lowercase, which means that you haven't captured that valid edge. And then under this is your eye type. So your average is going to give you an average axial length. This is often used in cases where you have a really difficult eye to scan. You're missing the posterior lens capsule for some reason. It's just really hard to pick up. You can put it on average. And you can see as you change each one, the measurements change here. So average is just gonna give you a straight axial length. It's not gonna give you your AC, your lens, and so forth. Whereas if in a 2352, whereas if I change it to phakic, it's 2357, so it's not that far off. You're just missing the AC and your lens. And then you have your pseudophakic eyes. So if someone is gonna have, another surgery, you always wanna make sure that you know what the eye type, what the IOL type is first before you do your scan, because it will make a large difference. So for pseudophakic acrylic, you can see here that you plus 0.2 millimeters here. Okay, if it's silicone IOL high velocity, you can see how it changes the measurement minus 0.4. If you don't know the IOL type, what I always do, and what most people will do, is they'll measure it on aphakic mode. And you'll let your physician know, measure it on aphakic mode due to unknown IOL type. And that way they know when they go to calculate the IOL, the IOL power, they have to factor in what the IOL type is by either adding +4 or minusing, whatever they have to do. And you can always go in and change this after the fact. So if you say, oh, they had an acrylic IOL, I'm gonna change it to acrylic, you can do that after too. And then you have silicone.
But not after you took the scan, correct?
What's that?
Not after the scan that you took, right?
Yes, you can change it. All it's doing is changing the velocities or the material.
Okay.
So it's either gonna +2, -4. You can do it after the fact.
Okay.
But I always like to do it on aphakic if I'm unsure of the IOL type. And then you have your silicone oil aphakic and phakic. So that will change the velocity to 980 through the vitreous. It will account for silicone oil. So you always want to try to set this before you start your scan. And then these are just your algorithms here. To be honest with you, I don't even look at that. When you're doing an A scan, the most common reasons for not obtaining a good scan is not enough water, not a good seal with your shell around the eye, and your gain is too low. So, and by gain, we mean this right here, just as you would on a B scan. What I'm gonna do, if I drop that down too low, there's no spikes. If I put it too high, everything's squared off. So you have to have a good balance. You can start off at default on the machine, and if you notice that you're not getting the posterior lens capsule or the retina, that is a really dense cataract. So you've got to bump up the gain so the sound can get through a little bit easier. Okay?
And how do you know it's a default?
So
When you
whatever
sort of
this turns on as is
Okay,
the default, but
gotcha.
you can also look in utilities and go under scans here,
Okay.
and it will show you what the defaults are. Okay, so where's my A scan? So it should have been 68. I think on this particular scan it was 73. So this is going to be your shell.
Oh, that's the one I did.
Okay, so this is your cone shell, and my colleague is Gus Cone. He's the one that developed this.
Oh, really?
He's really, do you know Gus?
No.
No. Gus has worked for all the ultrasound companies over the years, and he's with us now. Really great resource.
I'm scared of that one when I try to do one of the.
What's that?
I freak out with that one when I try to do that on one of my classmates.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm gonna pop the cornea.
Yeah. You popped a.
I know. I feel like.
Oh my God! I was gonna say.
No. I know.
I've actually seen
She's like,
I've
"Oh my God,
actually
I'm
seen a
scared."
corneal perf.
We're not doing this in class.
Yeah.
No, it's just
On a
scary because
Transplant from
it has
this
to
or
be on the
what?
cornea.
Well,
Yeah.
It's just-
What happened was, sometimes physicians will say, we need the A scan, we need the A scan, do it immersion, do it immersion. And you're like, this cornea is about to explode.
Goodness.
And so in that case, you say, I'm not doing it unless you're in the room.
Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable with something, say,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it unless you're standing right here with the patient. And so my mentor was doing it, and as soon as she put the other shell around the eye, we saw liquid just like shooting out. And the doctor was like, I was gonna do that anyways, we're taking him to surgery, so we were like,
How- You
and
just try to open it up.
it's funny how like physicians react differently, they're just like,
Bad.
whatever, it's like, well,
Yeah.
why didn't you like tell us?
Normal, daily.
So, but you're not gonna pop the cornea with it, I promise.
It
goes
goes
around-
around,
goes
feel
around
the
the
pressure.
limbus.
Yeah.
It goes around the limbus,
Yeah.
and
It's just like you feel the pressure because I let other people do it on mine,
Yep.
my eyes, and you can feel it because they have to like rest their hand on your
Yeah.
cheek, and then press that thing kind of hold us so that when you squeeze the liquid and not coming out.
yes,
So it doesn't mean
it's a balance.
concentration.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you want to tell your patient, we've anesthetized your eye. You won't feel pain, but you will feel pressure.
Yeah.
Right, and
And it's
also they'll
important.
feel the cold water coming
Yeah.
in.
Right.
That's the part that gets
So
people
the
like
more you
panicky.
tell your patient, the more they're sort
Yeah.
of mentally prepared for
Yeah.
what
When you
they're
scan
feeling.
men, when you do A scans on men, this is what they'll do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what
Men
it
are the
is.
worst patients.
It's just, they don't, and you'll get like the older, usually what I find is older Asian women,
Oh.
they literally will just sit there.
Yeah.
You can do anything, and they will not complain.
Wow.
They're the bravest patients I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because it's like, when you think about everything they've probably been through in their life,
Yeah.
this is nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, when you grow up, come to Kaiser. Be one of my patients.
I would not come to where you
She's
are.
Asian, so.
So,
For sake of time, let's focus here.
Yeah.
Just-
all right.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So just to show you how to set this up, we don't have a bottle of VSS, but I'll essentially,
We do not.
we can use
Yeah.
that just to show how it looks.
Do you mind grabbing that eye lock? Thank you.
So what you're seeing here, if you think about that horizontal axial from the B scan, you're gonna think about, the front of the eye to the back. The only difference here, this is the transducer, this is the saline, This is the cornea, anterior lens capsule, posterior lens capsule, vitreous, and retina.
Wow.
Most important thing is you want a straight 90-degree angle, if possible, on your retina.
I see.
Of course, if there's like macular edema or a detachment, you're gonna have an extra spike here. So you've just gotta be aware of the pathology before you even start. And that's where the B-scan comes in.
So when we were doing contact A scans in lab, you guys remember, the only difference is we didn't have that first spike
Right.
because we weren't doing immersion.
Right.
So the first spike on our contact was the probe in the cornea.
Right.
And so the rest of these are the same ones we saw.
So with this, this is the part, this little flange is, it's gonna go underneath the eyelid.
Yeah.
And you've gotta, like, sometimes you can just kind of fit it in there without lifting the eyelids out of the way. But I find that that doesn't create a good seal. So you kind of just wanna lift the eyelid a little, lift the bottom lid a little, and make sure you have a good seal. And like you were saying,
Yeah.
if you don't put any pressure on it, your water's gonna leak out all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, you're gonna screw this end on there with the thumb knot. This end will kind of connect to your BSS bottle.
Yeah. And it's candidate, it can't be back.
And it's hard because you've got, and then this goes in here. It's hard because you don't have a lot of,
That's what I do when I do.
Yeah.
I just put it around.
yeah, because, I mean, it's just one less thing. You don't want this
Yeah.
dangling all over the patient.
Yeah.
So you've got your bottle here.
Mhm.
You're just gonna squeeze. It's gonna fill up the shell, but you still have to hold this on the eye. So
Yeah.
like my left hand doesn't work as well as my right, so you've gotta squeeze it. And then you've gotta hit the foot pedal, watch the screen.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of coordination.
The thing that, I think with the old immersion that I have in my clinic, that it's not like a pen like that, it's already hooked in the top.
Yes.
So I think it's that way easier.
It's a different
than-
shell.
Okay, so it's like, I think it's easier for.
That's a
like-
Prager shell.
Yeah.
So the Prager shell, the probe actually locks in and there's a thumb knot that tightens it.
Yeah.
The only thing with the Prager shell is if you don't, the reason why he designed this with the Prager shell is if you tighten the thumb knot and the probe isn't in all the way, you're not gonna get any readings.
Oh.
And sometimes those thumb knots break off, so
Yeah.
then your probe gets stuck and then you can't get it off and you can't clean the probe.
I see, yeah.
I was at Duke University a week and a half ago,
That's what they said.
and the whole top of their probe was eroded because they were
Really?
soaking it with the Prager shell on the probe
Oh,
because the thumb knot broke off.
wow.
They were soaking it in like peroxide or something?
Yeah.
Oh, bleach.
Yeah. So just to show you kind of what the auto acquisition looks like, you sound like you had it pretty down pat. You sound like you're more comfortable with it.
I
which
can,
is good.
yeah, I
That's
did.
great.
I don't do on patient, but I can
Yeah.
actually do it on
Yeah.
people.
So what I'm gonna do, just to show you how auto acquisition mode is, I'm just gonna change this to aphakic so that I can show you on my own eye. So auto acquisition. The thing you have to remember about auto acquisition is it may not always be a good scan. The machine
Right.
thinks it is, but it may not be. Okay? So you're gonna have five images, and you can click through each one and it kind of evaluate it. If I
Oh, it
was-
took the 5 just like that.
Yeah, and it does
Okay.
it just on its own. So if you have a patient that you know is like an easy, there's no pathology, it's just a cataract, as soon as what you wanna do, have this all set up, but have the probe already running. So as soon as you fill that water, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your images are saved. Okay, as soon as you squeeze that water, you don't have to worry about fumbling to get the foot pedal and, looking around. It's already running. Squeeze your water and your images are done.
When you put that thing, the whole thing on the patient eye, I have two different types that tell me that they should let the patient look straight ahead.
Yep.
For example, they do the right eye, right? They have both eyes look straight ahead.
Yep.
But the other tech tell me that when you put the probe in, you do the left, do the
Yep.
right eye, and
Yep.
you want them to look at the red light.
So if you ever have one of these done, if I do this, the red light is everywhere.
Okay.
So I can't, it's not like I'm looking, like, I feel I'm looking cross-eyed. The whole thing is the red light because it's so close.
Okay.
And if you guys bring this close enough to your own eye, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
So you always, if they have vision in the other eye, with the other eye, just look straight ahead.
Okay.
Sometimes if they have an eccentric gaze, it's not even worth telling them to look anywhere. You've gotta adjust yourself.
Okay.
Some patients can't adjust where they're looking. You can say, look straight ahead, and they'll be looking over here. To them, that's straight ahead.
Yeah.
You know, so you kinda have to, and that's where like social cues is really, really important with patients. You can't like get mad at them and say, you're not looking straight ahead, you're not looking straight, well, to them, they are looking straight ahead, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's, like, it's not cookie cutter.
Because I feel when they put that they tell me to look at the red line, I'm just like, what do I do with the other? Because I have a feeling
Exactly.
I will look to that side too. Where
Yes.
So,
Yes, so I always just say, okay, with your other eye, just find something on the ceiling to look at if they have vision.
Yeah.
Or you can have someone else hold their, you know, if they keep moving, you can have somebody hold their hand for it, you
Oh, I
know,
see.
to have them look at it. Or you can, well, no, you can't because you're squeezing water, but put something on the ceiling.
So what goes on the eye?
What's that?
What goes on the eye for Paracane and
Proparacaine,
then gel?
and then you don't need any gel.
Okay. And then the
They
gel.
used to use these with just gel, you know, they used to
Yeah.
fill up the cup with Gonac,
Oh.
which is really gross.
Okay, so just
And then the
Paracane
saline,
and Paracane, and then the cup on top of the Paracane, and then the saline in the cup.
exactly,
And then,
you got it. And if it's just contact, say if the patient can't lay supine or they can't tolerate immersion, then you're just gonna do your Proparacaine and go straight on.
Which is what we did in the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't remember if I mentioned this to you guys, I was fixating, you know, on a distance target. When the probe came in and I was sort of fixating on the red light
Yeah.
was literally almost my entire field of vision.
Yep.
So that doesn't work very
Yeah.
well, like you were
Yeah.
saying.
And I think I use the red light more as a guide to let me know that the probe is on and working than
Oh,
anything,
yeah.
not as necessarily a fixation light. If you are using, you can do immersion with these cups as well, so if you have a patient that has like really bad nystagmus, or they have a really eccentric gaze, or if they have a tarsorrhaphy, you can use these. And then they'll be, because this is a little bit further away on top of the water here, they will be able to see the red light a little bit easier. And then you have control on where you aim the beam, whereas with that little guy, it's just central, it's all fixed. So these, I do my immersions for really difficult patients. You can put it around an eyelid, so a tarsorrhaphy, if there's just a little, bit of a pupil sticking out, these are great for that. And there's an adult and a pediatric one too.
Do you need a helper for that? Just an extra set of hands?
I don't, when you're first starting, yes.
Okay.
So what I usually do is I'll take a wad of tissues and I'll go like this. And this is how I do all my A scans, I don't use that,
Oh, really?
never.
Just as a
I just
personal
don't like-
preference?
Just my personal preference. I don't have time to fumble with
BSS.
tubes
bottles
and whatever else. I know I sound like a tyrant, but. So usually what I'll do is hold,
Oh,
okay? So I keep the tissue on the side of the patient's eye. That way, if it spills out, it doesn't drip down into the ear. It will go directly into the tissue, and I'll go like this. And I'll just do my scan. And then when I'm done, I just lift the cup up a little and let all that water drain into the tissues that I have. So you're still using both hands with either one, so.
So there's no lid on the cup or anything like
No.
the one that we have in our, okay.
well, we have one with this, she's just saying she
Oh.
uses that
Yeah.
as a,
This is
Personal
like,
preference.
If you can use it if you like this one better, or if they have,
Cause I'm used to
eccentric
this
gaze.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, but a lot of customers will call me and they'll say, the patient's like, the eye is way over here, and you can't move this.
No, you have to move the whole
You
shell.
have to move the whole thing.
Mhm.
So with this, if you have a
You
wider,
customize it, but then you have to be very stable, cause you are in charge of the angle of the
yeah,
probe.
and you wanna be like straight, you wanna be right on top of the water. You don't have to go all the way through.
Mm.
But, and that's another thing, like with a patient with a tarsorrhaphy, some blepharon that has really bad corneal issues, you can put the cup around the eyelid itself,
Mhm.
and still get a good A scan.
Oh.
So it's just another technique to have up your sleeve. If you can't get it with this, try it with this.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
well, we need to wrap up this little training session, cause
Sure.
we made some changes to our plans.